Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Banachari Jamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramhamsa Parivirajakacha Sutra Shakta Shri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Reading from Sri Caitanya Caritamrita, Adi-lila, Chapter 9, entitled The Tree of Devotional Service. Is that it? Desire Tree. Desire Tree of Devotional Service. Text number 39. Attayeva sabha phala dehayare tare Kahiya ha'uk loka ajara amare. Word for word. Attayeva, therefore. Sabha, all. Phala, fruits. Deha, distribute. Yare tare, to everyone and anyone. Kahiya, eating. Ha'uk, let them become. Loka, all people. Ajara, without old age. Amare, without death. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki. Distribute this Krishna consciousness movement all over the world. Let people eat these fruits and ultimately become free from old age and death. Purport. The Krishna consciousness movement, introduced by Lord Caitanya, is extremely important because one who takes to it becomes eternal, being freed from birth, death and old age. People do not recognize that the real distresses in life are the four principles of birth, death, old age and disease. They're so foolish that they resign themselves to these four miseries, not knowing the transcendental remedy of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Simply by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, one can become free from all misery. But because they are enchanted by the illusory energy, people do not take this movement seriously. Therefore, those who are actually servants of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu must seriously distribute this movement all over the world to render the greatest benefit to human society. Of course, animals and other lower species are not capable of understanding this movement, but if even a small number of living beings take it seriously, By their chanting loudly, all living entities, including even trees, animals, and other lower species, will be benefited. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu inquired from Haridas Thakur how he was to benefit living entities other than humans, Srila Haridas Thakur replied that the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is so potent that if it is chanted loudly, everyone will benefit, including the lower species of life. Om Jnana Timirandhasya Gnanjana Shalakya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Giradhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Distribute this Krishna consciousness movement all over the world. Let people eat these fruits and ultimately become free from old age and death. So in this chapter we're hearing about the Krishna consciousness movement, which is Lord Chaitanya's own movement. It's said that the tree of it's looking at this movement of Krishna consciousness figuratively as a tree, and it's explained that the tree itself is Lord Chaitanya, and Lord Chaitanya is also the primary trunk of that tree, and all his associates are the different branches, and then the sub-branches, the different parts of this movement, which is meant for spreading all over the world. And that's exactly what Lord Chaitanya is instructing here. Distribute this Krishna consciousness movement all over the world. So we can see that this is in Srila Prabhupada's translation, there's always so much, even in just a small sentence, there's so much to be unpacked, Srila Prabhupada can pack so much into his translations that we sometimes we even take it for granted or overlook, that here Lord Chaitanya is saying that these fruits, phala, it's not just any fruits, it's called prema phala. The fruits of love of God. So when we think of a fruit, it's something, it's something very satisfying, a nice big fresh juicy fruit, mango, and we're all, is explaining here, Lord Chaitanya is saying that these fruits should be distributed all over the world. And what are the benefits of this fruit? A fruit is something that gives us nourishment, gives us relief, gives us satisfaction. And it says that these fruits are ultimately going to help us become free from old age and death. And why is that? How is that related to, a fruit? How can that be compared to a fruit? A fruit being very satisfying. It's solving our problems of hunger and thirst, and so these fruits are the prema phala. So prema, that word, it's even just listening to the word, even if you don't know Sanskrit, it just sounds like something really glorious. Prema. It's I guess there's similar English words like prime. It's like the ultimate thing. What's the ultimate thing? What are we all looking for? Well, I guess we can all say that we're looking for love, right, in life. And I guess that we're all old enough now to realize that we've been looking for love in all the wrong places, again and again. So I think this prema, that's like the ultimate love. It's a supreme love. It's a love that fully satisfies. Love of God. And this is these fruits of love of God. That's the Sankirtan movement. Prabhupada's giving us that definition of, just directly into the translation. Distribute this Krishna consciousness movement. That's what these fruits of love of Godhead are. Is the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya, the holy names. It's a very simple philosophy, and sometimes we have a habit of overcomplicating things. So the Krishna consciousness movement introduced by Lord Chaitanya is extremely important, because one who takes to it becomes eternal, being freed from birth, death, old age. So if we understand a bit of philosophy, that we know that the soul is eternal. It's the nature of the soul, Satchidananda. It's eternal, blissful, and full of knowledge. But currently, we're not acting like that. We're acting under the modes of material nature, and we're subject to birth, death, old age, disease. So this Lord Chaitanya's movement is extremely important, because it means that Srila Prabhupada says becomes eternal. Obviously we can't, if we're already eternal, we can't become eternal, but we'll access that eternal part of the self, which we've forgotten about. People do not recognize that the real distresses in life are the four principles of birth, death, old age, and disease. So this is where we start to complicate things, isn't it? That not only is the goal of life actually pretty simple, love of Godhead, but we mistake the problems of life. We overcomplicate the problems of life. All of a sudden it becomes a problem to get sufficient food. All of a sudden it becomes a problem to get enough shelter to raise a family, sex, all these things become real difficulty. It's really hard for people just to get these basic things sometimes, because in general, maybe not necessarily as individuals, but even collectively as societies, we really overcomplicate things. We really mess things up in terms of how we manage our resources of nature. Nature's there to give enough. We heard in the last purport that there's no real scarcity. It says that with the goodwill of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there can be enough fruits, grains, and other foodstuffs produced so that all the people in the world could eat 10 times their capacity. But currently we're finding it very difficult to feed many populations in the world. And this is because of our mismanagement. It's not because of a fault of nature. It's not that nature is lacking anything. Everything is there. All the processes, of nature that nature goes through. Nature's providing food and shelter for all all species to coexist, but we've complicated it somehow, and how we complicated it is because at the core of how we manage our resources, there's this greed. And so where does that greed come from? That greed comes from envy of God, envy of Krishna, because when there's when we're disregarding that ultimate fruit of love of God, when we've forgotten that goal of life, then we become envious. And when we become envious, then we become greedy, lusty. So that greed is it creates a whole chain of reactions, that we exploit the resources of nature rather than taking just enough, to maintain ourselves. We take more than we need so that we can profit, and then eventually we just create a lot of problems where our food becomes it doesn't give us sufficient nutrition, and we end up creating disease within ourselves. So there's a whole chain of reactions just because of this greediness, and ultimately because of this envy of God. And the envy is only there because we've disregarded that goal of life, which is to find the love of God. So people are so foolish that they resign themselves to these four miseries, not knowing the transcendental remedy of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So we resign ourselves. We give up. We just accept it as a fact that birth, death, old age, disease. It's just part of life. But we don't understand that by resigning ourselves to these four miseries, then we're going to experience them again and again and again, life after life. So we feel we tolerate them now, but we don't have the knowledge to understand that it's actually a cycle: birth, death, old age, disease. So there's some scientific, attempt to remedy these things, old age and disease or death, but it's really science fiction, because they've actually got no way to solve these problems. So the general population is just resigned to the fact that we have to suffer these things. So in the meantime, let's try to enjoy our youth, try to enjoy health, and not worry about actually trying to solve these problems according to the recommended process of the yoga scriptures, the Vedic scriptures. Simply by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, one can become free from all misery. But because we're enchanted by the illusory energy, people do not take this movement seriously. So yeah, we can understand how that's true. People see the Hare Krishnas, and, they don't take us very serious. Sort of understandably. We do look pretty funny sometimes, but if they really were, to just listen to that message, it's a very simple message: love of God, living simply, living, just taking what's necessary, chanting Hare Krishna, and and spreading this chanting all around the world. That's what we like to do. We can do our own sadhana, our own japa, and that's very nice. But when we try to assist somehow in spreading the chanting, so that's sankirtan, that's the loud chanting, that benefits not only the whole world, but in terms of humans, but also the trees, animals, they all get benefit. So that's explained here in the purport. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu inquired from Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur is the Nam Acharya, which means he's the leading authority on the science of chanting the holy name. He would chant thousands of holy names every day. For most of his day, he was engaged in chanting. And so even Lord Chaitanya himself would take instruction about the holy name from Haridas Thakur. So Haridas Thakur said that the best way to benefit all living beings is the loud chanting of the holy names. So there's many nice things we can do, nice charitable things we can do for the world, but the best thing we can do is the loud chanting. That sound vibration will benefit even the lowest species, even the bacteria or the microbes. So, therefore, those who are actually servants of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu must seriously distribute this movement all over the world to render the greatest benefit to human society. So that's the real fruit. If we were to go out on the street and take a box of mangoes and give them to everyone would be pretty happy, and give them some satisfaction. That's nice. So we can do the same thing with the holy name. Go and chant the holy name. Everybody who comes to visit us, we chant the holy name, tell them about Krishna, and take the movement seriously. So I don't have much else to say myself. Does anybody have anything they'd like to add to that?
To go and give the holy name to people around the world, what's the qualification? Can anyone just go out and spread the holy name at the same time?
Yes, yeah, definitely. Did anybody hear that question outside? So Padma's asked, what's the qualification for spreading the holy name? Do you need a special qualification to spread the holy name? Everybody's qualified to spread the holy name. Some people will be more empowered by others. Some people who are, more advanced on that path. And one needs to be empowered by Krishna, Lord Chaitanya, to be able to spread the movement. But everybody can assist Srila Prabhupada, assist our spiritual masters, assist the senior devotees in the spreading of the movement, and there's many ways we can do that. We can go and chant the holy name. We can distribute books. We can even just by performing our regular duties. But everybody we meet, we tell them about Krishna. We try to give them some prasadam. So whatever our capacity, we're all qualified in the sense that we all have the opportunity, we all have the ability to do that. And obviously our most empowered representative of Lord Chaitanya is Srila Prabhupada, and we're all assisting Srila Prabhupada in that movement. Manibandha?
So during the purport, Prabhupada mentions Haridas Thakur saying that by chanting loudly all other living entities are benefited. So that's coming from Haridas Harmony. So also there, because we have the one of the 10 offences that chanting or preaching the glories of the holy name to the unfaithful should be avoided. So Lord Caitanya asks Haridas Thakur, so how will the unfaithful be delivered? But Haridas Thakur was the same answer by loud chanting. As long as the holy name enters into the ear, one without faith will be delivered.
Very nice. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Yep. Yeah. Oh.
Loud chanting.
Loud chanting? You want to do some loud chanting? Oh, we just did some loud chanting. I'm sure we'll do some again. Maybe I should have gone longer with the loud chanting. That's alright. Okay. Thanks everybody. Hare Krishna. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Go Premanande.